What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Michael Daly, and I am TWSN's beat writer for the Minnesota Vikings. I am going to be previewing the Minnesota Vikings Week 1 matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals. Let's start out with the obvious. Kirk Cousins is back for another year, and last year was not a fantastic year for the Minnesota Vikings. They missed the playoffs after the year before. They made the playoffs in 2019. But like I said, 2020, it was not a very good season. It ended in a 7-9 overall record for this Vikings squad. They collapsed at the end of the season. That's exactly what happened. They dropped 3 of their last 4. The biggest thing is momentum. How will they carry momentum heading into this Week 1 matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals? I think one thing that helps, especially with this team's offense, is having Adam Thielen as the reassured number 1 target. Last year, it was a new position for him because for most of his time with the Vikings, he had to share receptions with Stephon Diggs. In 2020, that was the first year where the Vikings gave him the keys and he was expected to deliver. So that was an adjustment year. He had a good year last year, but it was still an adjustment. This year, though, he still is expected to be the number 1 guy, but I think in terms of pressure, it's taken off a bit because Justin Jefferson, he will also have pressure. Jefferson had a standout rookie season, bursted onto the scene. The question around Justin Jefferson is, will he be able to deliver in his second year? I think he will, because when you're working with someone like Kirk Cousins, it's all about rhythm. And I think those two will be able to connect. And also, Cousins and Thielen, that will be an important relationship to see how that manufactures. But if we're looking at Week 1, I think you can expect for Thielen and Jefferson to get a big bulk of the receiving targets, especially with Irv Smith Jr. down. Who knows how Chris Herndon and the other tight ends will fit into the offense? It is clear that the Vikings love to run the ball too with Dalvin Cook. He rushed for over 1,500 rushing yards last season, the second most in the NFL behind Derrick Henry. So they're hoping for another stellar season for Dalvin Cook, but it helps having 2 terrific receivers in Thielen and Jefferson to get the momentum going on offense. And I think starting Week 1, they will be able to do that. If we're looking at the Bengals secondary, because that's exactly what will be matching up against the receiving core, the Vikings have what it takes to take advantage of it. Jesse Bates, in my opinion, might be the very best safety. But aside from him, what do the Bengals have to offer that can really shut down either Thielen or Jefferson? I don't think they have a ton to offer. And that's where I think they will be able to shine, especially in the red zone. Being able to throw back shoulder passes to someone like Justin Jefferson will be terrific, and I think will cause a lot of trouble for the Bengals. Now, to the other side of the ball, let's look at Minnesota's defense. A lot of overturn happened between January 2021 and September 2021, whether it's free agency departures, injuries, what have you. But one good thing for the Vikings defense were the free agency signings. Bashaud Breeland from Kansas City and Patrick Peterson from Arizona. Having those 2 guys as your defensive backs will help tremendously, especially when you're going up against someone like Tyler Boyd on one side of the field and T. Higgins on the other. And oh, by the way, Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase, for what it's worth, was Justin Jefferson's teammate at LSU, and he was arguably the best wideout in 2019 in college football. If he's able to translate to the NFL, he will be a matchup nightmare for any team. But the Vikings have what it takes in their secondary to shut him down. Like I said, they have Breeland and Peterson, but they re-signed and extended Harrison Smith. He's a vital piece, and he will be around for the long term. Don't you think Harrison Smith will want to have an outstanding performance week 1 after he just signed that 4-year extension? You're absolutely right, he will. And I think Harrison Smith will put on a spectacular performance, being able to rove around center field, shut down any passes that come his way. Harrison Smith will be able to do that, especially because Joe Burrow is coming off of a season-ending injury for last season, where he was taken out of that Washington football team game in November 2020. He's coming back now. I think he's going to try to test out that arm, test out his legs as well to see how that will work in terms of mobility. Harrison Smith is the guy in center field to swat down any passes that come the way. I'm interested to see how he matches up against to help out his secondary against someone like Tyler Boyd and even T. Higgins as well. Let's see how Harrison Smith is able to help out and aid his new cornerbacks, because you definitely know that it will be a bit of an adjustment period working with that new defense in live game action. But we have to talk about someone in Everson Griffin. If he is able to get onto the field, and if he is able to help out his fellow defensive linemen, he could be a threat, especially in week 1 against Joe Burrow. That offensive line for Cincinnati, there have been a lot of questions surrounding that O-line. Having someone like Everson Griffin, although he's older, has a ton of experience. He can pressure Joe Burrow, and that could be a problem for the Bengals offense. And that's why I personally believe the Vikings have what it takes to go onto the road in Cincinnati, Ohio, and steal a week 1 victory against a Bengals team who has a lot of question marks surrounding their franchise. The Bengals went 4-11-1 last season, and part of it was because Burrow got injured at the end of the season, but it's not like the Bengals were a very good team when Burrow was healthy. The Vikings need to capitalize on the fact that the Bengals have a questionable offensive line. Joe Burrow is coming off of an injury, and they need to pressure him. If they're able to pressure Joe Burrow, the Vikings could be in for a week 1 victory. But let's see how everything shakes out. This is a team that I think is still trying to mesh well together. Mike Zimmer, I wouldn't say he's on the hot seat, but the pressure is on for him to deliver this season. You never want to go back-to-back seasons missing the playoffs. In the NFL, the leash is not long enough for too many coaches to survive that. And I don't know right now if Mike Zimmer is one of those coaches who can survive missing the playoffs in consecutive seasons. But it all starts with week 1. Let's see how the Minnesota Vikings fare against the Cincinnati Bengals. That's going to do it for this week 1 preview. My name is Michael Daly. I am TWSN's Minnesota Vikings beat reporter. Make sure you like and subscribe to the TWSN YouTube page, and you download the TWSN mobile app and follow us on all of our social media pages. Take care, everyone.